Good morning, Paul. It's good to be back. How you
It
doing?
is good to be back. How long is it since we've been able to get together to record one of these?
Maybe 2.5 weeks.
Is it really?
Mate, been a few weeks, but it's good to see your face again, Paul, and chat to you. And be back.
Likewise, you're looking younger, Warren.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what the Mediterranean Sea and sun does to you, doesn't it?
I was thinking more it's a camera filter, but if you
Well, yeah. Don't reveal my secrets, Paul.
sorry, yes.
You're looking well yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been spending as much time as I can outside, mainly because it's too warm to be inside. But I'm not complaining because it's been lovely. It's been lovely. I know there's lots of issues with the current weather, but it is brilliant. I'm having a great time.
Yeah. We don't. It's funny when I went away. It was obviously hot in Spain, and then you come back and it's also hot here. So usually when you come back to the UK, you feel like a big difference in the temperature, don't you, or like the climate?
Yeah.
But actually, it was a beautiful sunny day, really warm in the evening. Straight. You remember that feeling when you get off the plane and you go on holiday and that rush of heat hits you? It's almost like that coming back. So
yes,
it's nice. There's some problems which we hope get resolved as a result of the hot weather, but hopefully we get a little bit of rain because I think we need it. But
yes, we had about 30 seconds worth yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I did. It felt like it evaporated about the moment it hit the ground, but it did. It's very strange. It's like rain. Very strange. Anyway, what have you been up to then? I mean, I suppose nothing because you've been on holiday.
Yeah, been away, which is really nice to spend some time with the family and the kids, and we got some great stuff. Go to the beach and spend some time in the pool. It's all about the kids on holiday when they're sort of little, isn't it? So yeah, it was really good, really good. Nice time to have away. Do you know what it was? It was really nice to be away have a change of scenery for 10 days. Get your head out of the day to day and come back kind of with renewed energy and freshness. So yeah, it's good. It's been good. And I'm back to work. Why isn't the first day back to work? You always feel quite calm and refreshed. And the second day, it's like you've never been away.
Yeah. I'm afraid that is the reality. Well, whilst you've been away out of the country, I've been here trying to keep the economy going by doing two things. So I've been creating value through doing various bits of consulting work, largely around helping a team really adapt or adopt and embed a new communication strategy. That's been fun. But also speccing out a couple of new pieces of training focused around the use of artificial intelligence in marketing. So that's been fascinating. But I've also been helping the economy by spending money. So I've been for mini breaks. I've been to Eastbourne, where I played a bit of golf in Eastbourne, which is spectacular. Highly recommend it. And I don't know if I've spoken to you since, but I've been to Wales twice, and subsequently I've been to the Midlands or to the Cotswolds to a small festival. So it's quite the variety of experiences over the last 2 weeks.
Well, that sounds delightful, and sounds like you've had, having lots of mini breaks. It's good for the soul, isn't it? Doing lots of different things, popping here and there. Golf's always good for the soul.
Yes.
Some people maybe not, but on the whole, it's good to be outside, isn't it? Walking and doing exercise.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it sort of leads me to my sort of musing, because I'm in a bit of a musing mood.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Which is that and I'm not the first person to say this, but it does feel like we've reached peak consumerism. And I say that because I think there's more and more focus now on experiences, and people are talking more and more about experiences, and they want experiences, and that's what makes them happy. And I think it's because many of the things that we need, or we feel we need, actually now are more accessible than they ever have been, and more affordable than they have been. And of course, it is linked to the fact that we can get so much through our smartphones by way of entertainment, access to our loved ones, access to our social circle, and so on. And I was just thinking about experience, almost the localization of experience, because we've just come out of the World Cup. which of course is all about the globalisation of experience. And there's been mixed reviews of the success the World Cup has had in terms of delivering a fantastic global experience. And equally, I've been involved and seen lots of very, very local experiences, small festivals, small events, which actually I think personally I found more meaningful and more enjoyable and more memorable than these big set piece global events. And I wonder if that's something that marketers need to think about, because it's much harder, obviously, to replicate local events at scale. But if they're the ones that are driving the engagement and the value, then that's something marketers have got to get their heads around.
I think this is a really interesting point, Paul. So I was thinking about this last night because, and I don't want to get political, and this isn't me.
Hang on, right, hang on.
Just discussing what the Prime Minister's been talking about with localisation and handing budgets to, local authorities. What that kind of links in with what you're saying, because what does that mean, I suppose, for local economies and how potentially things might be marketed in the future? So actually, will there be more of a local angle to things? He's talking about jobs for local people in local areas and linking kind of education to that. It feels like, similar to what you're saying, that we're going down this route of almost deconstructing the globalised kind of approach to marketing and actually focusing in on actually what matters to people in local areas. And so that I do think there is something for marketers to think about there. And similar to what you're saying about big events and actually local events feeling more meaningful, I think I reflect the same thing. So when my family and I go to sort of a local farm or a local event where they've put on a mini festival or a day, those always feel more meaningful than when we go to the big kind of theme parks or that are owned by these kind of big corporations. And similarly, we went to a big concert, which was fantastic recently, me and my wife, which was brilliant. It was at one of the big stadiums. I won't say who it was, but it was great. But actually, the experience of going to the gig and coming out of the gig was really hard work. Like, it was just really hard. Getting home, getting there, the trains were not, well, we actually drove. It was really difficult getting home. It's difficult getting out of the stadium. There were lots of people there. And I think there's something about going to these kind of local gigs, events where there's local musicians and actually feels more meaningful, like you said, Paul. I think there's something in that approach, and actually it is something that people should be thinking about.
I think so. And I think that they're more doable now than ever because of technology. So whether it's the ability to publicize, the ability to issue tickets, the ability for small businesses to operate and take payment at these venues, just simple things mean it's easier than it ever has been to put on local experiences. And that, I think, is what's going to make the difference. And so, yeah, as marketers, I would be saying, how do you recognize that? Because it's very easy to sign a big check to sponsor a national or even multinational event and then do activations off the back of that. But is that really talking to your core audience? And is that really getting penetration amongst your key target audiences? And I'm not sure it is. And of course, it's not easy if you're looking at a more dispersed model of activities and experiences. But I think the technology is there now to help manage that. And that might be how one gets differentiation. So yeah, so that's the thought I've had it from this summer, this brilliant summer, which is not over yet, but this brilliant summer of experiences and adventures. And I'd love marketers to turn their heads to this topic.
Yeah, I think there is I really think there's something in that. And in the summer where we haven't had a Glastonbury and big events like that, actually, maybe there's been a bit more emphasis on the local kind of like festivals and bringing people together. Actually, people maybe have had to have more thought around that. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Really interesting.
Well, and sorry, Glastonbury, don't get me started, but you have. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a commercial venture. I know that a lot of the proceeds go to good causes, but at the end of the day, it's a big marquee festival that seems to attract slightly just peaks and just on the down curve stars. Yeah. And I think it's just become, in my view, just a little bit cliched.
Mm,
And wouldn't you rather go to a smaller festival where
mm,
you can see the bands that are doing that and say, I was there
yeah,
before they were famous?
yeah,
And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And
yeah,
I think the World Cup, Glastonbury, maybe things like Formula One, all these big things that are becoming very commercialized and very globalized.
mm,
I think there's a limit to the appeal of that,
yeah,
and there will be a renewed focus on these smaller experiences that can be delivered now successfully because of the development in terms of tech.
right. Is that what
Yes, let's see, let's see. So does that capture your observations as well over the last couple of weeks, or have you got other stuff?
you're talking about peak consumerism? I've just been thinking about and looking into the sort of psychology of where we're at the moment with the economy, where people maybe are finding things less affordable, the big stuff. And I think we might have touched on this before. So, where people maybe don't have enough to buy a car or a house, they somehow ended up spending 50 quid a week on all these little things like coffee, snack, these little small treats. And actually, I discovered they call this treatonomics. So I don't know if you heard of that phrase.
I have not.
So it's when people feel financially squeezed, they don't necessarily stop spending money, but they shift from major purchases to kind of small indulgences. So it's the difference between buying a house and a £7 coffee, essentially. And the reason that's happening is because people are delaying or abandoning buying homes, getting married, having children, going on expensive holidays or buying luxury goods, but they still want moments, small moments of pleasure, essentially. So, and I think they call this the lipstick effect. So it's not new. It's not necessarily a new thing. It's probably just been labelled with a new name. So it's this thing where during difficult economic periods, sales of relatively inexpensive luxury products often rise. So people can't afford to spend thousands of pounds, but they justify spending 10 or 20 quid on something. But there's a £25 ceiling to this poll. So this comes into our thing around price and value again. It links to our trend of this. And that's kind of the sweet spot for it. So anything below £25 feels spontaneous, manageable, rewarding, and relatively guilt free. So you feel like if you spend under 25 quid, it's not going to break the bank. It feels you can do it. Once that price rises above £25, that's when people start thinking, I'm not sure about buying this. It feels too much. And the thing isn't the product. It's kind of the story. It's not the coffee or the candle or the notebook. It's the comfort, the reward, the status, the identity that they're buying effectively. And it kind of leads to this thing that we also discussed, that people don't want discounts. They want permission to buy something. So they want to feel like they could be guilt free buying that, and it gives them the comfort they need at that.
Mm.
I think there's a few examples. I'm just scrolling down to give you a couple of examples on this. So examples could be, you've got velvetizers. Obviously, they cost a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah,
But actually,
yeah.
like buy a £13 hot chocolate pouch as a little treat reward. Or Marks and Spencer's food halls is quite a good example where you can get slightly more premium food, but you can still spend under 25 quid on something and go out and have a picnic together. Or you dine in for two, which feels a little bit more premium and a nice treat, but you're not breaking the bank, and it's a nice reward. So things like that. And it isn't selling products, it's selling this kind of comfort. And because people can't buy these big things, they're going to the smaller kind of
Mm.
that.
Well, I hadn't realised there was a figure attached to that. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, affordable luxury.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed that at a slightly different level, you hear a lot of, you see a lot of cars nowadays that are a bit souped up, especially, and you hear a lot of cars with those exhausts that make a lot of noise. And I've assumed that's because if you can't get on the housing ladder, you've got some money, not enough to get a deposit on a house. But you have got enough to buy a semi decent car and to soup it up. I assumed that was that effect, but I hadn't realised it was happening at the sort of £25 level.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it makes sense. But I'm trying to think what I'd buy for 25 quid.
Yeah.
It's a strange middle ground.
We sometimes do it. So like the M&S thing's a good example, actually. The sort of dining for two feels sort of, you're buying the nicer end of the market in terms of food that you can take. You can get a nice curry or a Chinese, and it feels M&S kind of stuff food feels quite a kind of premium, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you can feel like you can afford to buy that's under 25 quid. You could probably get a nice dessert or a drink to go with that. But yeah, it's not breaking the bank. Or there's another one I saw about, I think it's Papia, the kind of stationery shop. They sell these, the big sort of journals that cost 40 quid or, leather. They do a smaller version of that. I think that's under 25 quid, but they sell that as like a way to journal and away from sort of mindfulness and that kind of thing. And that feels like someone can buy and then feel kind of better or comforted by themselves. So there's little things like that I think, and the coffee's a good example. It's like the
Yeah.
£7 coffee, vanilla latte, or whatever it is that people feel like they can buy those everyday things, but they'll probably add up to be over 25 quid over a week. But when you
Yes.
buy, they don't. It's the psychology of it, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe it goes against the grain of the consumerism thing we were talking about at the start, Paul, and your point around the end of consumerism, and maybe this trend will die out in due course. But I can see it where people can't buy these big things, and then they resort to the sort of the everyday treat to make themselves feel better or reward themselves because they feel that life's pretty.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, and the £25 one is interesting, and it's an interesting challenge as marketers in that how do we respond to that, and how do we respond to that in a responsible way?
Mm.
Because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't feel supremely confident about marketing things that sort of take advantage of that £25 opportunity. But equally, who are we to judge? If people think they want something, then that's up to them.
Well, that is a good point. And I, feel similarly. Do we want to be marketing to people who maybe don't have enough of these big ticket items? And then you're trying to sell them something they don't need. This is the kind of age-old conundrum, isn't it? I suppose for marketers trying to sell stuff people don't need. But in today's world, where you're trying to build value, and it goes back to the point at the beginning about experiences, I suppose, Paul. Actually,
yes,
should valuing more bringing people together in spaces and experiences and connection as opposed to buying things. And actually, is that the role for marketers in the future? Should that be the thing we turn to?
Yeah, that's the challenge. What experience could you give people for £25? Ooh, interesting.
Ooh, yeah. Well, there aren't many of those big gigs and things that you can go to for under 25. Well, there's none, is there? There's none. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Very good, very good. So what's happening in the week ahead for you, Warren?
Well, getting straight back into work, Paul, trying to keep the kids entertained in the summer holidays. Actually, that goes back to trying to find small things for under 25 quid that we can pay. So yeah, so on my list this week with my wife is probably looking for things that we can do, days out that don't break the bank with the kids, things you can do at home, things we can do go out that don't cost a fortune. So that's probably part of my week. And then where there's lots of big projects going on at my organisation at the moment. We're doing lots of things at once to try to shape the future for young people with cancer so we can give them the best kind of possible chance at kind of not just surviving cancer, but also living their lives and having the best chance to do that. So there's some really exciting stuff going on at work that I'll be diving into, and that'll all be coming to a head over the sort of next 2 or 3 months. So yeah, looking forward to getting my teeth into that. What about you, Paul?
Fantastic. What about me? I'm taking a proper holiday next week. I am the weekend. I'm cycling down to the south coast. I'm then getting the ferry with some friends to France. We're going to cycle around the northwest of France for a week. I'll have no laptop. I will have a smartphone, but I will be as non-working as I've ever been, I think, for that week, which is going to be brilliant.
Right.
The weather's looking pretty good as well. So I'm going to have a week doing that. And then when I get back, it'll be all hands to the pump because I've got a lot of training to deliver in September and October. It's training around data visualization, training around AI in marketing, training around influencing skills. So there's a lot of build work to be done, but that's going to be super interesting, super exciting. So yeah, I can't wait.
That sounds great, Paul. As always, lots of training, which is good. So I think you're imparting your wisdom on lots of people, which is bad. I wonder if you're going to get lots of questions about the OpenAI AI stuff and the hack, but maybe not. Maybe people won't delve into that.
Well, yes, that is an interesting one. And one wonders what the agendas are of the various parties involved.
Well, that was on my mind as well. Who knows?
Well, if they've not taken over the world in the next 2 weeks, I look forward to catching up with you then, and we can compare notes.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Paul. I look forward to speaking to you after your holiday.
Likewise.
Cheers.